Shirley, you were born in Oklahoma.
Spavinaw, Oklahoma.
And I talked to your husband, talks about how you met when he was in the Air Force. I guess you went there.
Rapid
North.
City.
Yeah.
Rapid City.
Rapid
South
City,
Carolina.
went to stay with your sister and
Uh-huh.
found a husband.
Uh-huh.
So that was a good story. But obviously you moved back to Kentucky and then to Tennessee. Is that correct?
We spent 2 years in London.
Right, in
And
London.
then-
And then he went to school and got a degree. But you eventually ended up back here in Tennessee.
Uh-huh.
And exactly
Oak Ridge.
in Oak Ridge. He worked at Oak Ridge and then he also worked at TVA.
Uh-huh.
So along that line, it was interesting to find out that you did not know much about your Cherokee heritage here in
None.
Tennessee.
None.
None. And it was surprising in a way that growing up that your family did not share that or did not know that. Apparently it was not passed down.
It was, well, we knew we were part Indian.
Right.
Because you had to raise your hand when in school. All of the schools got more money if you,
Right.
for the Indian children going to school there. But that was all. There didn't seem to be any history taught at all.
Right.
As far as Indian history.
So your parents were from Oklahoma. How far back have you traced any of your ancestry? I assume you have. But
Oh, yes.
yeah. So how far back you've gone all the way back to the Trail of Tears and even further back than that?
Oh, yes.
So how many generations were there between the Trail of Tears moving to Oklahoma and you coming along?
Well, my first ancestor was here. He signed a statement, Ludwig Grant. He was a Scotchman that married he signed a statement in Charleston that he lived with the Indians for 30 years. And he'd married a full-blood Indian from the Long-Hair clan, but he didn't say her name.
Okay. And that's interesting. You say the Long-Hair clan. How many different clans were there?
7.
7 clans?
7 clans.
Okay. Were those clans part of the government of the Cherokee Nation?
Yes, they were part of it.
Yeah, so you had, each clan was represented in the Cherokee government?
Yes.
Because they had the Cherokee Nation, and I saw the map out there, all the way up to Virginia down, and encompassed several states. And
Ludwig Grant traveled between Chota and Charleston. In fact, he wrote letters. There's letters in South Carolina that he wrote letters to Governor Glenn. He was a trader, Indian trader. He, went to Charleston and got goods and then brought them back. And he also wrote letters to Governor Glenn to let him know what was going on in the Cherokee Nation.
yeah, of the Cherokee people that you've met and researched, how many of them keep the traditions of the Cherokee people?
None that I know of.
Right.
None.
So it just kind of got lost in your case.
Yes.
You were part Cherokee and weren't even aware of it from your family. And
Oh, yes.
well, you were aware that you're part Cherokee. I'm
Right,
sorry.
right.
My fault. Going back, you were aware, but you didn't know
any of the
why.
history.
Or you knew why, but you didn't know
Any of the
your
history.
lineage as far as going back.
Uh-huh.
So
In fact, I lived in Chattanooga for 14 years and didn't know the Indians in Oklahoma came from here. I had no idea.
Really?
No. And then one day, in I believe the Times, there was a picture of an Indian on the front page. It was talking about, I forgot his name. I believe it was Doublehead. They were talking about Doublehead. For some reason, they put a picture, and I was just so surprised.
uh-huh.
And then that got my interest, and I started doing research in genealogy. And I did it for about 20 years. And
Right.
then,
And obviously, now you said something about going back with your lineage. How many chiefs were involved?
In the Grant line, there supposedly is seven chiefs
7 chiefs.
in the Grant. It goes all the way back to Tallentiski and John Jolly.
Okay. Quite a few.
And,
Yeah. And So once you started, and you were in Chattanooga 14 years, so about what year was it that you started actually doing your investigation?
Oh, gosh.
I need to prep you for these kind of things, right?
I have no idea.
Okay. But you moved back to Chattanooga, let's see, you got married 63 years ago? Something like that? Yeah.
62, yeah,
62? Okay. And then moved from Oklahoma, from North Dakota to Kentucky. He went to school there, and then moved to Tennessee. But you weren't originally in Chattanooga. You were up in
Oak Ridge for
Oak
7
Ridge,
years,
7.
and then Chattanooga 25.
Then you moved to Chattanooga. So once he took the job at TVA, is that when you moved to to Chattanooga?
Yes.
So you were there a few years. So that kind of and 14 years later, you saw the picture in the paper and said, "Wow, I need to." It kind of sparked an interest in determining.
I was so surprised. I
Yeah.
had no idea, and I got interested. I thought I'd have to wait till I went to Oklahoma to do my research on my father's family. Because
Okay.
my mother's family was from Brandon County.
Now, were there a lot of people of Cherokee descent that lived where you lived in the area?
Oh, yes, Spavinaw.
That was a lot. Where did the actual Trail of Tears end up in Oklahoma?
Fort Gibson, Tahlequah,
In that area.
that area.
And do you remember how many Cherokees ended up in Oklahoma from the Trail of Tears?
No, but I can tell you how many were in the stockades here in Tennessee.
How many was that?
17,000.
17,000.
And in 7 stockades.
7 stockades.
Uh-huh.
An interesting number.
Uh-huh.
And then they, obviously, we pretty much know that all those 17,000 did not make it to Oklahoma.
To Oklahoma.
Yeah.
According to the books, 4,000 died, not just on the way, but in the stockades. Most of them died in the stockades.
In the stockades.
Uh-huh.
Probably something most of us wouldn't really think about happening, but obviously it did.
Uh-huh.
So once they
the government didn't really mean for them to stay in those stockades that long. It was, they were going to ship them by river, and there was no rain that year, and so they couldn't go by, I think 2 boats went by water, and they had a hard time. So then arrangements had to be made then to go over, Chief Ross talked the government into letting him be in charge, and so they had to make arrangements for food and stuff to be,
right.
all of that. So they had to end up staying in the stockades longer than what the government really intended for them to.
So how long were they in the stockades? Any idea?
From June until September and October.
So quite a while.
Quite a while.
Yeah.
That's
And,
why there was, no protection from the wind, or rain, and so they weren't used to eating bacon, or they
diet change.
right, the
Tremendous
diet
diet
change.
change.
They
Okay.
had
So
measles and different.
yeah, a lot of times when you're all huddled together, you share
Mhm,
diseases
mhm,
and stuff.
mhm.
So that was an interesting.
Mhm,
I did not realize that many people died in the stockades,
mhm.
and
Yeah.
I can only assume that a certain amount died on the journey too.
On the right, but according to Emmett Starr, the book, there wasn't more than, I think he says about 700 that died on the way.
On the way.